As a startup founder, you might dream about all of the time that you'll spend building this amazing product for your customers. How investors are just going to start throwing the money at you for your billion-dollar idea, and how you will love every part of this new journey. The reality, though, is much different. There are a million things outside of actually building your company that you'll end up being responsible for as a founder. My name is Kim Gomez, and I'm the founder of Meet by the Dino. And after launching our company with over 1 million users to date and raising nearly $3 million from investors, all while balancing a life as a mother and a wife, I've put together a master list of everything that I wish I knew when I started my company. So that the next entrepreneur, they can get the real truth about what it takes to found a startup. Today, I am joined by 3 of my dear friends who just happen to be kick-ass female founders. And collectively, we have raised over $10 million in funding. So first, I want to bring on my friend Christina. Can you say hello?
Hi, Kim. Hello, world. I'm Christina. My company is Spellbound, and it's an augmented reality company that serves healthcare.
Very cool. Now I'm going to bring on Kathleen, who I apologize. She does have a super potty mouth, but we bring her on because she has such a good time.
I will try to control it for this audience. Hi, everybody. I'm Kathleen Craig, the founder of HTMA. We make software for banks and credit unions.
Awesome. And then last but not least, Jessica.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jessica Willis. I'm the founder of PocketNest. We have a financial wellness platform that we also license to banks and credit unions.
See, you guys all sound like you totally have your shit together. Like, just with your
drilled into it. Out the swearing too, so it's perfect. Now it's boring.
Awesome. So first things first. So I, when you have an idea for your company, it's like the first thing is like, you're like, I want to raise money from investors. I want to do this fundraising thing. But I guess no one ever tells you like how hard it is. You just hear all these stories. I know, at least from Meet by the Dino, I would just go online and kind of Google search everything. Did you guys do anything different than that? I mean, I just was like, investors for a startup, investors for a marketplace. Did you guys?
I waved a magic wand and the money appeared in our bank the next day. So if you're doing it differently, I don't know what you're thinking, Kim.
You were so full of it because we met at an accelerator in Ann Arbor.
Yeah, I was pounding the pavement, Kim, like going to events. You know, I'm a mom too. I've got 2 little kids at home. I start this company and you're working 14, 16 hours a day at first. And I'm like, oh, I get to put my kids to bed and have dinner with them, or I get to go to this networking event to try to meet some investors. That's the choice.
It is. Now, Jessica, you just closed, was it your first round of funding?
We closed a bit of our second round of funding. So we didn't close the round, but we did close some capital.
So how did you get like your first pool of investors, or like where did you start out?
Yeah, I think I have a unique answer to this question that the 3 of you don't have. And that's that each of you guys helped me early on and gave me advice about this along the way. So all 3 of you gave me additional advice.
You can get like a commission check or something when you
absolutely. And what that equates to is, oh my goodness, how important was that community? So I don't think you can find the community without doing the annoying, hit the pavement networking. But I think the community for me was really, really, really important. And the community is you guys and, the other founders out there.
Right. And then Kathleen, now did you go right out and like try to find investment, or did you work with like a strategic or anything at first?
Well, at first I thought I would just bootstrap the company, and I was still full-time at the bank, at my bank job. So I thought I would just fund it myself. And then I decided, oh no, I can actually raise money from people. So then I got this idea to sell percentages of my company. Luckily, I hired a lawyer who was smart enough on the agreements to put units of my LLC instead of percentages. Or I would have never been able to dilute my first investors because I had no clue what I was doing. So thank goodness for good lawyers. That's the first and foremost. Hire a great team. And so that was my journey. And so I just went around to friends and family. I was like, hey, I've got this cool idea for a kids banking app. Do you want to invest 15 grand? Something like that.
It is the ultimate panhandling, right? They're literally asking people for tens of thousands of dollars. Please just hand me money.
I don't know. I told my husband, I'm like, honey, I feel like a whore with a spoon. Like, I'm like, I will take, like, I'm like, do I need to go out back? Like, I don't know what I do to like get these deals to close. And it was like, my husband was like, Kim, are you serious? I'm like, no, but it really does feel like that. Begging people for money.
I remember you and I having a very specific conversation about a very specific situation and the concept of dirty money and how it's not necessarily illegal or anything like that, but this idea of taking this money that might make you feel very dirty afterward.
Yeah, and not even like illegal. I mean, I was raising, so my first round, I was pregnant. Just to kind of get into that, I was pregnant when I was raising our first round. Backstory. I invested every penny of my savings into what is now Mi Padrino. And my husband and I found out we were pregnant with our 5th child. Yeah. Like, oh my God, what am I going to do now? No one is going to invest in this founder with this huge baby bump. And plus, she's got 4 other kids at home. And honestly, that was the case. Like, I would pitch and people would just like look at me and look at the belly, look at me and look at the belly. And then it was like, what are you going to do when the baby comes? And blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, hey, are you what's going to happen? Well, I had an investor that gave me a term sheet, and they had told us that it was because of the life event they took into consideration for the valuation.
Life event.
My life event. And I'm like, well,
wow.
I've given up everything. I've quit my job. I've sold my business, and I'm sacrificing every second away from my family to start the startup. That's the life event, right? Like, yeah, but I ended up taking money from them. And my second round, they wanted to invest, and that's where I'm like, I'm going to take it, because as founders, you are going to sacrifice everything to make sure you get to that next round, to that next goal, to that end game. And so, in all honesty, I think they meant well, but it was just like, I cried with Christina. Like,
that's terrible.
I got asked by an investor if I was planning to have a 3rd kid at the investor table, and I was like, I'm not really sure the relevance of that. I'm not. But even if I was, no one has ever asked my husband that question.
Right.
No.
So it's just one other thing that you're just not really prepared for, when you're fundraising. But kind of like off that, soapbox, which I know we all can get on as female founders, that, there wasn't really a good resource anyway that I found that was like, go to this place and you'll see a list of everyone in the country, where they invest and how they invest, and the check size and all this blah, blah, blah. It didn't exist. Like, I'm thinking like a Yelp for investors.
Yeah.
But what I have found in that, Hello Alice, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Hello Alice. It's a great resource online. They basically pool resources in different cities, across the country. And then just the local accelerators, I know, because the majority work from Ann Arbor. And so, there's resources there. But if somebody's kind of outside of the area and doesn't have an idea of who's, available to them, I would start with Hello Alice, and then just maybe put like an accelerator in your closest city.
Yeah, city and state too, like the MEDC here in Michigan. There's a lot of state collaboration as well. So if you're not lucky enough to have it in your city, looking to the state level is important too, because I didn't do that, again, as you can tell, because I almost sold percentages of my company. I didn't do that right away. I went a few years in, and then I found Spark, and I found all these different resources, and I was like, holy mother, this would have been useful 3 years ago.
Yeah, and I never sign up for any type of newsletter normally, because I'm like, oh, they're going to spam me. But like, honestly, sign up for as many newsletters on like startup kind of businesses, focused businesses, so that you can get, in touch with, or you can be the first one to know when there's any type of like pitch event or a networking event or anything like that, because you'll just get all of those through your email. So that's kind of a
That's what I think the community piece is. When I say find your community, I think you have to find that group of not only individual people who support you, like you all, but also just the community itself, or that ecosystem, right? We love to throw that term around, that ecosystem, so that you can find out about each pitch event and all the players. And it feels like you have to just, spend your time in that ecosystem with that community before you start to get any traction at all.
Right.
Yeah.
And then just kind of another tip is that you're going to find then these investors and this is probably, you guys have probably done this too now, but you'll create this list of like these, you want to get in front of this investor, but you don't know how to talk to them. Kind of those like wanted intros. And so for me, my tip is that you meet so many people and they're like, how can I help you? and I'm sure you guys hear that too, whether it's other investors or accelerators. And I'm always like, I got this list. Do you know anyone on this?
Well, that's smart. I've never done that.
Like on my investor asks every month, I'm like, do you know this person? And some of them they're like, so I'm like, do you know anyone at American Express? And they were like, the one investor came back and he's like, Kim, that was like a very vague question. I talked to like anyone there, like the marketing, the advertising, investment, like just anyone at American Express I want to talk to. No, but for real. So like that was kind of one of my things that I've found to be helpful is just always kind of have that like major list. So when everybody says, can I help you with anything? You're like, why, yes.
But it's important when they ask that question. It's not, you have to have an answer ready. Like studies have proven that like people, when you ask them for a favor, are more likely to not only help you, but see you in a more positive light. And then it's easier to develop a relationship. So even as simple as like, I've been trying for months to reach this person, or, do you know any, like, sometimes I would be like, do you know anyone in customer success? I need to learn more about this area, or this is the first time I've ever done a 5-year pro forma financial projection for my company. Do you know anyone who'd be willing to give me some free time, like 20 minutes to talk to me? Like having it ready, depending on what your stage is, really important, because even if they can't fulfill it, they feel a little bit like, I don't know, obligated to you, and you don't want them to walk away and not remember you from that conversation.
Right. And that's a great kind of segue into my next topic, this whole like entrepreneurship 101 and how much don't you love my little tags at the bottom of this.
It's so professional. I'm in awe.
You're gonna meet by the pink colors, so you're just gonna have to like,
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So like all of a sudden, like, so a little background on myself, I had other companies prior to Meet by the Dino. I've had employees, we've, so acquired and sold companies. But they were all like small businesses, like restaurants, banquet facilities, what have you, real estate. But I thought I knew everything about entrepreneurship, then realizing I knew nothing. Like we just talked about fundraising, but then there's so many things like cap tables, the stocks and option pools for employees, benefit packages, if you're going to give any benefits to your employees, how that works. I know the big one at Meet by the Dino is that I wasn't really prepared for out-of-state taxes, whether that be sales tax or even on employment, because we have, employees that are in New York and Texas. And then also kind of the biggest one is that I wasn't really prepared to manage a team of skill sets that weren't my own. And so I was a non-technical founder building this tech platform, and I couldn't even talk the lingo. And so all of a sudden I had to be not only like a great boss, but I didn't know what to talk. Well, first I had to be able to hire them. Like, how do you even hire someone who even know their skill set? So I don't know if you guys have any stories or anything to add, but I was just like not prepared at all for that kind of part.
I think that's your next village. Like Jessica said, first you get your kind of experts and influencers and figure out your structure of your mentor group and your advisor group. Then you have to figure out your team. And I think what's nice these days, at least, a little different from when I started, is there are part-time HR, part-time CFO, like folks that are fractional that can help you in the key roles and know what you don't know that can really help. And if you're a non-technical founder, that is an area where you need to be so careful, because I will say I'm very lucky my brothers are developers. So I just abused the crap out of them and made them work for me for basically peanuts, because that's who I am. And so they were able to do the technical interviews for me. I would have gotten so screwed if it weren't for that, because people put on their resume they know every language under the sun and they've built every app under the sun. And then when you dive in, they actually don't even know basic coding. They know how to maybe make a WordPress site. So if you're a non-technical founder, you need to partner with someone who's objective and knows what you don't know, that can help you build that next level of team.
Yeah, Kathleen, I think, don't we share a CFO right now?
Oh, yeah, we do. Yeah.
Right. So fractional, like I don't have a co-founder. I'm a single founder. So I don't have a complementary person that can fill in all my shortcomings, or we can divide and conquer on the things we need to learn. And that shouldn't be anything to stop us, but then it becomes, I have to start building community around these skill sets, and like whether they're going to be advising me or somebody that we're going to bring into the company. Like, how do I learn how to assess that? And I did take, so we talk about those like epicenters locally to yourself, like whether it's like we have a Spark or in Detroit Tech Town, like there's might be areas of entrepreneurship, and they often offer free classes. So I used to go like, okay, for me, marketing, no idea. I used to do all the social media posts for, our company. And then as soon as I hired somebody who to do it, she was like, I'm sorry, I had to go and delete all your posts.
Right.
You eating a frozen
I got
cake
that one
from
too.
IKEA? Like, she's like, you eating a frozen cake from IKEA in your car is not helping the company. And I was like, what? So it was like how I took a class on marketing 101. And just so I could start learning the lingo, I wasn't going to become an amazing marketing rock star. But like, if I don't even know what like good work is, how am I going to hire and then assess an employee or support them to be successful? And like bringing in a new employee where there's not a big team and there's a lot of, career development, like that's a problem.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm frozen.
You did freeze, but it's okay. We got it. Another thing that I found, I don't know if you guys have done it, but it's like you're in a meeting and we always talk about like fake it till you make it. And so we're in a meeting and people say something like, yeah, and you're like writing it down. You're like, what? It's like CAC, for example. I'm like, CAC. I'm like,
customer acquisition cost.
I'm like, yeah, customer. I did not know what a customer acquisition cost was. Again, I was business at small scale, Kim Gomez, didn't think about customer acquisition costs. I mean, I managed like and owned like lots of restaurants. You don't think about customer acquisition costs. So I'm like, or had never heard of it before. So I'm like, yeah, I will have to get back with you on the CAC. So I go back and I'm like, into Google, because that's like my entrepreneurship course is Google. So I'm like, what is CAC? And whatever. But I was like, what the hell? Honest to God, but it's like fake it till you make it. And I always go back to be like, I'll have to get back with you on that one.
And I used to do that in the early days more than I do now. I think that's the thing too, as you go along, you realize that the investors or advisors or whomever that want to lose you or who aren't willing to ask your question when you want wait, what do you mean by that? Or how do you measure it? Or what aren't people necessarily you maybe want in your world, right? And so it is interesting as I've progressed through the journey, how much more willing I am to be like, hey, I haven't heard that one before. What do you mean by that? Yeah. And because in the early days, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not equipped to do this. And then now I realize no one's equipped to do it. We're all just figuring it out, for goodness sake. So we all need each other. Let's just go, right? And, we're all really smart people. And
wait, I was laughing so hard, Kim, about CAC because, I had moments around that. And I would never forget the first time an investor asked me, so what's your CAC to LTV ratio? And I was like, why would I want to know that? Why would I want to know that at this stage of my company? Like, and it was funny because at the beginning, like I would have just been terrified about those questions, not knowing how to handle them, trying not to show it, but just to say, can I quickly, get away and Google, can I be looking at my phone under the table? Like, what do I do in these situations so I don't look like an idiot? And as I've gone through, Kathleen, I feel like I've gotten much more of like, I know my business. And if I don't know this word you're saying and you're going to hold it over me, then we're not going to work together because you can teach me and I can push back and say, it does not make sense for us to focus on CAC when we're below $1 million in ARR. Yeah. Like, when we, like when I can push back on them, but in the beginning you can't, you're just expected to give answers and give answers like that.
But I swear sometimes they just want the answer. They just want to hear how you answer, even if it's, I want to see how this founder does in a situation that they might not know the answer to. Mm-hmm. So I think, I first of all, I hope someone is watching this right now and constantly Googling CAC and what's a good CAC. That can be the next segment. But I think that the way to answer is great. If you know the answer, good for you. If you don't, oh my goodness, don't be afraid to say, I don't know what the answer is. I mean, to your point, Christina, like we're not in a position to have to know that right now. Or even to like make it up, but to do it in a really confident way of, answer the question you want to answer and let them know that that's not relevant, because I swear sometimes people just want to see what someone else does when they're sweating and how they answer.
Right. Or they're just crazy. I mean, I have an example. again, I have a marketing background. I worked in a bank. I ran restaurants. I have a business degree, for gracious sakes. I was sitting with this investor who's really, really smart, obviously. And he used the word cohort when it came to my users. And I had just never heard cohort used that way. I've heard it used in accelerators, right? I was a part of the second cohort, right? I've heard it used. I've heard the word. But the way he was using it, I was like, I'm sorry, you've lost me. I don't know what you mean. He goes, wow. You really need to learn that immediately if you're going to have meetings like this. And I was like, yeah, so I have a meeting I have to get to. It was so nice to meet you, and really best of luck to you.
Oh my gosh, you're so funny.
I do feel, Jessica, too, like, oh, I'm freezing again. Kathleen, to your point, too, like, there are those that I did feel like were testing me when I was talking to them. They wanted to either test my knowledge, or test my confidence, or test how I handled an unfamiliar or stressful situation.
Yeah.
And then there were those investors that were like, we're here to assess you as a human being, and like said it out front, like, we want to know that you're in it for the long haul.
Yeah,
and that you're the person to bring it to success.
Like, investing is you and the founder. So they want to poke at you. They want to know how you do. Like, they don't really give a crap what's going to come out of your mouth. They want to see like how you handle the situation.
Yeah. And so saying that and managing my expectations up front, because you can't tell at first if it's going to be somebody who's going to mock you for your lack of knowledge, or somebody who's going to make a mental note to say, oh, they handled that gracefully even though they didn't know the answer. Yeah. And so it's a game at the beginning, trying to figure out which investors are which. And I'm so grateful for some of the investors we have on board that were so upfront about their process. Like, M25 and Rise of the Rest for us were like, they told us exactly what they were going to do, and then they did it. And I felt when they were upfront about, I'm going to ask you, we're going through this process, I'm going to ask you these types of questions at this point, and for this reason, and here for this reason, like, they genuinely wanted to know the answers. And I felt like I was respected, that my time and me as a founder, that was the utmost show of respect they could give me, to not put me through any games. It was like it was out there, and they were who they were, and I was who I was. And if it was a fit, it was going to be a fit. And if it wasn't, good luck to you, like a genuine good luck to you,
Kim, I don't know if you're going to cover this, but Christina, for me, that really comes back to core values, right? When you're building your advisor group, your board, deciding who you take on as investors and how you interview and treat people, learn what your core values are and how you will and will not be treated. I think some people like games. I think some people play games when they interview people. For me, I'm a direct person. I'm a straight up person. Games don't work for me. They don't work for me in any capacity, right? If you're quizzing me and not telling me you're quizzing me, I think that's weird and an ego trip, right? So again, if you know who you are and you know your core values, you could attract likes to you, and don't be afraid to walk away from people that don't match up, right? If games aren't for you and you're sitting there not comfortable across the table, you're going to have a long-term relationship with this person, right?
And you don't have time. We don't have the energy or the time to deal with any drama. I feel like if I'm talking to an investor or even a customer, anyone that just doesn't get it or is trying to waste my time, there's so much, money is cheap. There's so much money out there. There's so many good people out there. Find what works for you and let the others move on. With respect, with love.
And
with love.
I told Jessica this when we had our little mentoring session that you still owe me, commission on.
Yes.
It was like,
right. The reminder.
It was for Accelerate Michigan. And I was like, the best advice that I think I can give is this trick that I've learned is to say, it's the three things. You say, this is what I know, this is what I don't know, and this is how I'm going to get there. Always. So put them up. This is what I know. I don't know what that word is, but what I do know is this is what I don't know. Where are you going to use the money? Well, or the LTV or the CAC. I don't know this, but this is how I'm going to get there. I'm going to use the money that you're going to get through from this round. I'm going to hire X, Y, and Z people. And by the end of this, I'll be able to figure out that number that's going to get me my next round of funding or to the next goal. So with that, those fancy gammas, that words of advice, I wanted to talk about the next step that no one tells you about, and it's the investor updates. And we can keep this pretty quick, but it's like no one tells you that after you actually get the check and you have that like secret party in your car when they say yes, you're like, oh my God. I remember Invest Detroit, my very first like institutional investor. remember Patty called me and she's like, Kim, we love what you're building. We want to invest. And I was like, and I'm sitting there and she's like, so it's going to be $150,000. And I remember being like, oh, and I like got so choked up. She got a phone. I screamed like a little girl. Never in my life have I ever done that before. And I was like, who am I going to call? And I was like, should I call my mom or should I call my husband? And I was like, but then it's like the next step is now you have this partner really that you have to then, you know, give them like the lay of the land, depending on kind of what you work out. But it's like every couple of weeks, some investors at first want to get updates, every month, once a quarter. I mean, so it's just this constant, and then it's like you have to tell them all of these numbers, and you have to tell them what you're doing, and it's just like this extra amount of work that is great because you should have those numbers readily, you know, available. But it's just the constant update. Then each investor reaches back and says like, "Hey, great job! Have you thought about this?" Or you know, it's just like. You don't think about that when you close the funding. So did you guys do you have any tricks as far as like how you guys do investor updates or?
I was really cognizant of that with investors and board members, that I didn't want my board or my investors to cause more work for the company. We're lean, being a woman-founded fintech company in Michigan. We were bootstrapping for so long. I wanted them to add value. So certainly I want to give them the information they need in the way they need it, but I don't want to spend a week prepping for board when I should be out selling, improving my product. So for me, I did the minimum possible that helped them know the company, helped them know the KPIs, the minimum reporting to investors, and then just focused on running the business and making them value for their money.
So how many of you guys like copy and paste last quarter's update and then just like change out?
We use a template. I use a Word document that I go through, my marketing person goes through, the CTO goes through to make sure that we're not missing anything. But that template, well, I will say a quarterly investor letter is definitely one of the least favorite things that I do. It's one of the things I push off and push off and push off until I'm like, okay, I have 24 hours to get this out. But it's also one of the best things because when I'm done writing it and I look back, I'm like, we have done a lot. Like we should feel really good about all these things. So I even think the monthly, we do a monthly Friends of the Company newsletter. I even think as hard as it is sometimes to sit down and write those things, it's so important for us as founders, I think especially female founders, to look back at what you did, because I need that pat on the back, that self pat on the back that, okay, I've done all of this over the last month to keep going forward.
I love Jessica's monthly. I'm on her newsletter. I love them.
Kathleen, are you on our newsletter?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
She's adding you right now.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I had a big learning moment about, like when you first start signing money from investors, you sign a ton of documents, half of which I didn't understand, or I understood the gist of it. And digging into our investor rights agreement and like reviewing that and saying, what is our actual legal responsibility and how do I not fall down on that? And then knowing next time around, like, how would I have done that differently? That investor rights agreement put a burden on our company. They're not trying to put a burden on your company. You agree to it. And I think that when you first sign, you're a little shell shocked. Like you're just trying to close the money. You're not thinking about everything after this. Like you're exhausted at trying to close the money. And then you close the money and that investor rights agreement is signed and it's a legal document. And you're like, now I have to deliver on it. And if I don't fully understand it, like we've missed things in our IRA that we're still catching up on and like making sure that we're compliant with and building in reminders and timelines into our calendars to know when to be prepping for these things. But I think that in the early days, like I did not understand how critical that investor rights agreement was going to play in the long term. You're just working on signing the term sheet, not all these other side letters and notes and other things that go along with the terms of the deal.
And I don't know if we all, because we're all in the same area, if we use like the same law firm or I don't know. It's not, for us to discuss, but it was so nice for me to just be completely vulnerable with my attorney, to be like, I don't understand any of this. And I'd be like, you got to knock this all the way down for Kim. And so, with all the investors, I'm like, I have my shit together. I have all what CAC is, like all this stuff. With my attorney, I'm like, all right, am I screwing myself? Like, tell me this in like layman's terms. Like, what am I signing? Like, what am I doing? And so that's one person that I feel like you can be, you should feel very comfortable with.
Yeah.
You should.
And I think we're all strapped.
Also remembering they're the company's lawyer. Once you take outside investment, that's another thing a lot of founders get mixed up in. Once you take outside investment, the company is not your baby anymore in the same way. You are now, legally, ethically, all those things bound to these folks that put capital into your company. So you have to think through that, and if you really want to do that. Right. And then there's two different things that we've touched on, but that are really separate that I think founders, especially early days, get confused about. There's promoting your company like Jessica does with her Friends of PocketNest email. There's promoting to generate excitement and putting out all the good news and the new deals and the new logos so that you can get new investors. And then there's what Christina was talking about, which is investor reporting and your legal obligation to your investors because they put their money in. Right. And they're two different audiences and two different tones and two different responsibilities that a founder has to do.
Right. And it's not always good news. Like
Yeah.
you were saying about dreading writing things.
Yeah.
Like certainly at the beginning, there was twice in our company's history where we're like, we have got $12 in the bank.
Mm-hmm.
What are we going to do? And we pulled it out, but we're going to give that news to those investors. Or COVID hit and I have no idea what is going to happen. We're not going to meet our targets. And
we're an event planning platform, and we were planning on everything but a pandemic.
Yeah. Like Kim, how is delivering that news? Like, it's not a happy email to send. It's not trying to spin it to be positive. It is like down and dirty. This is the reality of the situation. You own a piece of this company. What are you going to do to help us get through this? And that's not an email they want to receive. I mean, it is, they want to know. They want to know the truth. And if they're good investors, they're going to dig in and help you.
Right.
But it's not an easy thing to write.
Yeah. I know another thing that really caught me off guard after I got investment is that I was always like, my company. I'm Kim Gomez and my company is, or my team. No. I've been told a couple times now from investors, it's like we, it's not just yours. I'm like, oh yeah. A lot of people know, but I'm always like, mine, it's mine.
The first time a lawyer said to me, I said, well, you're my lawyer. They were like, I'm HTMA's lawyer. I'm HTMA. I'm the company's corporate lawyer. I know the personal lawyer. I mean,
you're my friend.
right? I mean, but it was a very important distinction because again, now that I'm CEO and founder, I need to be negotiating my comp plan as Kathleen, the CEO, chairman, and my value. And now the company is a separate entity from me, which is hard and different, right? When it's been your baby, my third baby for so long.
All right, I want to get on to the next and final topic, which some people love and some people hate, and it's the networking that you have to do as a founder. And I'm not saying networking for your next customer or your next strategic partner, networking because it's part of the deal. So like I met Christina at a networking event. It was a lunch that was put on by our accelerator. And I'm like, I should be doing anything but like talking with other founders about how we all have no idea what we're doing, but we're still expected to do it. And granted, there are obviously perks. You get great friends. We do these great things together. But yeah, I mean, just the constant networking. I mean, Jessica, I know now you're a little, your company's a little younger than ours is. I mean, granted, we're all still figuring it out. But how has it been, like, even with COVID? Like, are you still doing a lot of networking, but virtually, or what's going on there?
Yeah, I think my comments on networking would come from being a mom of 3 and my age, which I think we all are. Maybe we're not quite exactly the same age, but same phase of life. And I've already gone through the BS of working at a corporation where I had to clock in and, taking days off and had to get approval for taking my kids to the dentist, et cetera. I'm done with that shit. I'm confident enough to say that if that is important to, my team or investors or whomever, again, we're not a fit. God bless you, go on with your life. So I am really, really, really protective of my time. And I have been since my oldest is 11, I would say over the last 9 years. And so I have no problem telling people I'm not going to make it to that evening event because it's my family time. I'm dedicated to my family. And I think it is our responsibility to say that to younger founders as well, especially other young women who are asking, can I do both? Because I think if people like us at this age and phase of life don't feel comfortable enough to say, nope, that's my time, I'm not doing that. And that doesn't mean I'm not going to have an amazing, successful company. But I think it's our responsibility to speak up about that. So yes, I'm still networking virtually, but on my terms.
Right. I mean, but I definitely felt like you said, Jessica, like if you're not there, then you're no one, and it's like, or you don't care enough, or where's Kim? Like, why isn't she at this event? And I mean, Christina knows I was, so pregnant one day. And then, that next week I show up to the accelerator with a brand new newborn because I had to work and I had pitched that night. Like, I was just like,
oh my gosh,
I have to be here. Like, I have to do these things. And looking back, and it was just because I felt so much pressure to do it all. And
I felt pressure about networking events and pitch competitions were where I felt the pressure. Mm-hmm. And then I realized our company's so complex and B2B. We're not a pitch competition company, right? There was things I realized where I wasted energy in the beginning. And so I totally agree with Jessica. Like, I wish I would have been stronger earlier. And now I am. Now I don't do those things. I protect my time. I've grown a bit in it. And so I do think Jessica's advice to put those barriers around and know what your company is, what is needed for your company and what's not is the right thing.
But see, then I loved pitch competitions. I mean,
yeah. I wanted to go for you. You were in the same room at Invest Michigan and you came in and I listened to yours and I was like, well, yeah.
I changed my vote.
I changed my vote. So no, I know you beat me. I know. So I remember.
Lucy, my daughter, she was like weeks old. Like, I think she was old when I went to Accelerate Michigan. We had $6,000 left in the bank. Like, literally, I was like,
you killed it. And we were almost in the same outfit, and you came in after me, and we're both tall blondes. And so I was like, this is so crazy. Why did I just come to Detroit for this? I just let her have the money.
And was that the year you came in third? And I think
second, yep.
Second. And I think we got People's Choice that year.
Yes. And I went home. Yeah.
It is because our product speaks to parents. It speaks about children. There's a heartstrings piece about our product, which can help us in pitch competitions, which can hurt us in the room with an investor where they're like, oh, is this a lifestyle company? Or, it feels good, so it's not high growth. And I'm like,
I'm teaching a 16-year-old or a 15-year-old like party planning app, and they're like, what?
One of my superpowers is networking, I feel like. And you put me in a room, I can work that room. And when that was taken away with COVID, a big piece of what I felt confident in and how I could, whether it's making connections for investors, for sales, for a talent pool, for building the company, or mentors for myself. Every time I hit a new stage in the company, I realized more shit that I don't know what to do. And it's not about CAC anymore, but it's like about the new CAC, whatever that is this month that I need. Like, I rely on that network to get me through. And when COVID hit, we really panicked. I panicked. It's the royal we. I panicked and went and looked for, I did raise a small round during COVID, and I went and looked for investors where it came with the community. And then we got into an accelerator recently, and I would have never considered an accelerator before, not because of any crazy, but just because of wherever we were in the moment when there was an opportunity. It was a tough choice between this or this, and we would always choose something different. And I hadn't sought out things before, and this time I did, because I'm like, I don't want to have to relearn how to do my thing, And my thing is getting other people to help prop me up. It's not me being the thing. It's like having that whole community underneath you. And if I don't have that where I can show up to a luncheon or show up to an evening event, then I'm going to struggle because, and so I was very, very worried about the network.
And you really get really good at your pitch. And it's not just like your pitch to an investor. It's just like comfortable in your own skin talking about your company because you're learning so much. Like when I started, we were like a crowdfunding app. And we are not a crowdfunding app anymore. We are completely different. And so like, and you just don't even know how to explain it in like normal terms in like 10 seconds, you know? And so like going to those events, just talking to like another founder, you just get, you know, comfortable in your own skin. Another thing that I wanted to touch on, and this will be the last, is just the constant, now that you've got an investment, ladies, you guys are like rock stars. How often do you get asked to mentor another founder or that you get introduced because you've done it? Do you guys get that a lot? I get it all the time.
I've gotten some other weird offers, like maybe a couple times. I don't get it all the time.
Really?
I've been invited to be on boards of directors now.
Wow, you were like stepping up your game.
Actually, I'm on the board of directors for Ann Arbor Spark now.
What?
Oh, congrats, Christina.
I've been had invites for entrepreneur in residence at several places.
Don't they get paid?
Yes. But I haven't been able to, I mean, I am on one board of directors, but like it's about protecting time. It's back to our theme of protecting time. Mm-hmm. And so when I think about, you know, I asked a lot of questions about what those responsibilities were. And again, it was my reaction. I'm like, you know, one piece is we wouldn't be where we are without Spark and that community that came with it. And we went to them first, and it was a fluke that we found them, but like it was for us as a company, the thing. I have to give back. It's for me in the world, I need to put that energy back out there and give back. So this was a nice, neatly packaged way for me to do that. And the other was my need and demand for network, and how now I'm on a board where there's all these other leaders from other companies that I've never met before. And it's like, I can really learn from you. And let's get a virtual coffee later. And that kind of thing, it's filled multiple needs in my world. But I do like mentoring, but I feel
like, at least for me, I don't know if I get it because I have 5 kids. So I'm known as like the entrepreneur that has lots of kids. So if anybody can teach you anything about like having a family and starting a startup, it's that Kim Gamis girl. And so
and being a woman while being a woman.
Well, yeah. I always say like a lot of. I'll leave it. You can read it in the article what I say. But no, but again, like that, like I'm glad that somebody took my phone call when I was younger, knew what I had no idea what I was doing. And so I always feel like I have to pay it forward. But I have gotten really good at just saying like, yep, 10 minutes. And then it's like, I have a hard stop or 15 minutes or whatever it is. And then I normally try to drill those people just like I was drilled by investors. And I'm going to ask you these questions because I want you to be prepared for what's next. And I'm not picking on you, whatever. And so I'm hard. I normally on the people that I'm talking to. And then it's like kind of, so they at least get something out of the conversation instead of just like telling me their hopes and dreams and me saying, oh, good job. I like to actually give.
I get asked to mentor a lot. I think though that I was mentored so well that I learned how to do it pretty well, which is number one, it's always two-way. Mm-hmm. Number two, I really put it on the other person to contact me, especially if I'm being asked to mentor. I say, yeah, I'd love to meet with you, but it's on them to schedule the meeting, right? I don't go out of my way because that's what I would do, right? And that's how I built my network is I took the initiative and was gung-ho and led the way. But I knew I really made it when I started getting asked just recently to mentor male fintech founders. And I just felt like I hit a different level. I was like, oh, just because I'm in the industry on AFT, oh, wow, I'm actually an industry expert. It's not just because of my body parts. That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, on that note, ladies, we got shit to do. We're running companies. Great parents. I really want to thank you so much for your time.
It's so fun.
Why I'm doing this. I know I told you guys this earlier. I'm doing this because I wish somebody would have told me what I was getting into. You know, starting a startup, all the things that aren't laid out and they're not black and white, and just kind of, I would have felt maybe less alone when I was starting the company. So thank you for, you know, the laughs and for sharing your stories. And any words of advice? Last word, little word to anyone who's watching.
Go get them.
Look for episode 2 because this should be a series, Kim.
I love you so much.
All right. Well, then on that, we'll see you guys next time.